So Equitise, capital from the crowd. My name is Chris Gilbert and I'm the co-founder and managing director of Equitise, which is essentially like the ASX but for private company investment in both Australia and New Zealand. So what's the problem that we're seeking to solve? Well, the problem is twofold. On one hand, you've got small businesses across Australia which are trying to access capital to expand their operations and grow their businesses, although this capital is very difficult to come by. A recent study from Deloitte Access Economics actually stated that 2 million SMEs in Australia find it very difficult to access the expansion capital they require to grow their operations. So there's three main avenues at the moment to access capital in Australia and New Zealand. One being banks, which just aren't lending. The second being angels and early stage venture capitalists, which are very difficult to get in front of. And then you've also got family and friends, which are often used as a last resort, but are essentially a no-fly zone. On the other hand, you've got investors, which really want to be investing in private companies, but just don't have the means or access to be doing so. So at the moment, it's a very inconsistent and it's a high time cost and inefficient process. So what we're doing at Equitise is we've basically created an online platform which brings together the buyers, being the investors, and the sellers, being the issuers or the small businesses, to be able to transact shares in a marketplace type environment, which is essentially similar to an ASX type environment. So it gets rid of all of those pitfalls which these people face when trying to transact and raise capital in the current market. So what I'm going to do now is run you through a quick example of how you invest on our platform. This is dummy data. We haven't actually launched yet, launching early next week. But we'll be looking at Equitise as a dummy situation, and none of this data is actually accurate. We have just completed a capital raising. This isn't live. So the summarised investment box, which you'll see on our platform when you're looking at the opportunities, will be split up into 6 different sections. The first section summarises how much capital has been raised or transacted for this current opportunity, raising money. So you can see the percentage which has been transacted, the dollar value which has been transacted as well. In addition, you can also see the target capital these businesses are trying to reach for this current capital raising. You can see the amount of investors which have currently put capital into this transaction, the amount of equity they're selling of their business, and the time left to actually raise the capital before this deal expires. So if you click through on this deal tile within the platform, you'll see a bigger it's essentially a virtual information memorandum of this opportunity. And it's very similar to the Kickstarter style way of pledging contributions to projects, which you might be familiar with. So in the top left corner, you'll see a video which summarises the opportunity. So this video introduces the business, who the founders are, what the strategy is, what the company's doing, and essentially what they'll be spending the capital on. The right-hand side of the page, you'll see a summary of how much money has been raised to date, how many people have actually invested in this opportunity using the Equitise platform, and then of course a big green button which says invest to get people to put money into the opportunity. So then moving down the page, you can see the templated information which we put into the platform and standardise the way the information is perceived and analysed by potential investors. So what we have here is an executive summary of the business, strategy and vision of the business moving forward, the funding, so what you'll be spending the money on, the offer documentation, etc. We also analyse the market for the potential opportunity. So here we're mainly looking at the target market and the competitive landscape, and also the size of the market, which is obviously a very important factor when making an investment in a private business. We also go into the potential returns of the exit opportunity of what potential this business has going forward. So moving along, we have a very big focus on the team within private company investment. Obviously, human capital is one of the more important factors driving private company success. So within private companies, or within the platform, we look at the core team which is driving the business on a day-to-day basis. So we encourage the potential issuers using the platforms to upload as many of the team members as they can to sort of validate the business and what they're doing going forward. The second tab going along here, which is similar, you have the board and the advisors, which are essentially overarching the business and advising on strategy. And then finally, the third tab, you've also got the current investors, which have already put money into the business before their Equitise capital raising. Moving along to the top tabs along the top, you've got documents section, which enables the issuers to essentially upload documents which support the capital raising, for example, business plans, financial models, historical financials, patents, anything else which potential investors would want to review before making an investment in a private business. It's essentially an online data room for people to make an investment decision. You've also got the investors section. So the investors section contains all of the people which have currently put money into this opportunity on the Equitise platform. And what we do is, it's very similar to the page which is up at the moment. You can click through onto their social profiles within the platform and see what other opportunities they're investing in within Equitise, what their investment parcel size is, etc. So you can essentially follow different investors within the platform to see what they're investing in. And finally, there's a Q&A functionality, which is a bit like a data room again. So you can ask the directors and the founders of the business questions about the opportunity, if you've got questions about the patents when they expire, for example. So it's very simple to make an investment in Equitise. All you need to do is click on the green button once you decide that you want to put some money into an opportunity. And it's literally a three-step process. So we've spent a lot of time with Westpac in New Zealand building out a direct debit facility which is integrated into the platform directly. You literally put in your amount of money you want to transact, say it's $10,000. You confirm your personal details, which get sucked in from your online profile. You put your account details in, and then you click submit. And what will happen then is the next business day, that money will be transacted or debited from your account, and it will go into a unique Equitise account for that specific capital raising. That money will sit there until the actual capital raising is completed. If it's completed and it's successful, the money will be passed on to the issuer. If it completes and doesn't hit the funding targets, then that money is returned back to the investors after a few days. So it's a very simple process to make an investment using the Equitise platform, and it's essentially as easy as investing through an E-Trade or a CommSec platform. So why Equitise and not another equity crowdfunding platform, or why not just keep on investing in private companies the way you currently do? Well, we have spent a lot of time building up this platform to make it more efficient, and I guess this brings me to the key team, which is myself. I've got 5.5 years experience in mergers and acquisitions at Deloitte and corporate finance, specialising in technology, media and telecommunication deals. So throughout this time, I saw a big problem in the market, a big gap in the market where smaller companies weren't accessing the financing they needed because companies like Deloitte would not service them, which then led me to, and Johnny, my business partner, who's ex-Citigroup, to have a beer one night earlier this year and decide to go and find a solution, seeing the evolution of equity crowdfunding globally. So Johnny's background is at Citigroup in Equitise. He's focused on compliance when he was there. So together we really do form a strong, cohesive team. So traction, we've been going for a few months now, building up the technology throughout the AWI Accelerator program. We have acquired approximately 1,200 users, so 60% of those users are in Australia and 40% of them are in New Zealand. We have 3 capital raisings waiting to go live in New Zealand, pending a licence approval, which we should get the next few days. So these 3 capital raisings are totalling approximately $3 million in capital to be transacted. One of these businesses is a biotech, raising between $1.5 and $2 million. Another one is a tourism business, which is raising $500,000. And another one is a drone delivery business, which is actually an Australian company, and they've secured a partnership with the biggest online retailer in New Zealand to begin online deliveries from January next year, so it's quite exciting. the big diverse range of businesses which we're looking to raise capital for. So we're very familiar with the regulators, and we have to be. As Toby, I think, mentioned right at the beginning, one of the biggest barriers for entry for people trying to disrupt this space is getting through regulation, the cost of setting up a business. So in New Zealand, we've spent the last 3 months putting a licensing application together, which has been a very painful process, very tedious, but it has to be. This new asset class, you want to know and make sure that the people running these companies have the credentials to actually execute properly. So we're waiting on a license to be issued very soon, and we should be operating in New Zealand as soon as the end of next week. In Australia, it's been a slower process to become adopted by the local regulators here. We've spent a lot of time working with local government, flying down to Canberra, with the regulators, Treasury and the ministers. So working very closely with those people to try and get this happening in Australia as soon as possible. It's now no longer a matter of if equity crowdfunding will be executed in Australia, it's a matter of when, and we're fairly optimistic that it should be live by about March next year. So it's very exciting. So just summing up, it's real and it's happening, and what this refers to is crowdfunding globally. So it's a very big movement which has happened over the last sort of 7 years. The last 3 years have been the biggest growth, I guess. In 2012, there was $1.5 billion transacted through Expo, through crowdfunding platforms globally. And this has increased to $5 billion in the last year. It's soon to be projected in the next few years that crowdfunding will be acquiring about $25 billion a year in transactions. So equity crowdfunding is definitely disrupting the way that private companies will be raising capital into the future, and it's going to be a very exciting space very soon in Australia, and we look forward to giving Australian people the opportunity to invest in private companies as well as New Zealand residents as well. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening to Equity Crowdfunding. And are there any questions?